More than 3 million refugees, an economy in freefall.
Hasta que ganemos la última.
Tenemos que seguir en la calle.
Bueno, para mí, y hablo como director y productor, tanto como Max como yo, creo que los derechos humanos para la película era algo importante resonar, porque no solo lo de Venezuela es una crisis política, pero es una crisis humanitaria. Entonces, el hecho de que podamos poner la película en los ojos de las personas que le importa saber sobre la crisis humanitaria que está pasando en Venezuela, ya para nosotros es como una ganancia, ¿sabes? Porque podemos mostrar lo que hicimos.
Well, I agree with what Nelson is saying, and I think oftentimes throughout our experience with Venezuela being portrayed in the news, you get both the political, conversation and then the humanitarian conversation. And while the political conversation, which extends from socialism versus democracy to capitalism to all that, is great. What's pressing and what is the most pressing issue, I think, right now for us is the humanitarian crisis. And so I think being able to show our documentary in human rights or festivals allows us to highlight that aspect of what we're trying to look at, and hopefully steer the conversation more toward that, than the political conversation. The political conversation is important, but it's not the most pressing issue right now.
Ok, bueno, creo que como venezolano cineasta, creo que no solo para mí, sino cualquier persona que tenga la oportunidad de narrar la historia de su país desde una perspectiva como humanitaria, y hacer un análisis y darle como una puerta de entrada al mundo hacia lo que nosotros vivimos como venezolanos, creo que es un sueño, ¿no? Nosotros tuvimos la oportunidad de tener un productor, Greg Little, que fue muy abierto a nuestras propuestas, y es mi primera película también, largometraje, pero en el camino nos fuimos dando cuenta que la historia de Leopoldo era importante porque era un prisionero político, pero también había muchas historias en Venezuela que había que mostrarle al mundo. Entonces tratamos de unir muchas historias que mostraran la diversidad de nuestra comunidad y el problema que pasamos todos los venezolanos, porque lo que está pasando en Venezuela me afecta a mí, que soy un hijo de una familia trabajadora de clase media, pero le afecta también a Randall, que viene de una clase baja, que no tiene sustento, y le afecta a Leopoldo, que es un político de las más altas sociedades. Entonces imagínate como todos los venezolanos estamos en modo de supervivencia. Entonces simplemente el hecho de tener esa oportunidad como cineasta y como venezolano es como un sueño, ¿sabes? Poder darle eso al mundo.
Yeah, I think for me, having this be my first film, and wanting to jump in this way, came from two places. One, I studied political science, and so I've always, and I focused on a lot of courses in Latin American history and politics. And so I think as a Colombian American and as someone who studied political science, Venezuela, it's just something that has just always been on my mind. It's also a neighbor to Colombia. And we've had the relationship between Venezuela and Colombia over the years has been, very important for both countries in determining the course of a lot of different things, especially internal politics in Colombia. So I think for me, it was definitely something that, even though as it's not, it's not my country, it's not too far away. And I think the biggest thing that I know as as coming from Colombia and being a neighbor was, because a lot of my family is from Bogota, is the impact of the Venezuelan crisis and the immigrants coming to Colombia, and all the issues that has been causing. Issues because naturally immigrants aren't always treated the best by the receiving communities, and that's not necessarily because of racism, but that's because of economies that are already struggling to provide, and then the added stress. And so for me, I felt it was important for people to understand that what was going on in Venezuela had implications and importance that affected everyone else, you know, and as a Colombian, I felt that specifically to my family. And so I think to add that sort of global relevancy to what's going on in Venezuela, I think was really what caught my eye in this as an opportunity to do that. You know, there's a lot of other crises like Syria and such and such that are similar cases in where the displaced peoples are become a sort of a global phenomenon and expand the issue outside the borders of a particular country. And so I think Venezuela created another important example of how that can, how we need to be paying attention to that.
Creo que cuando nos dimos la tarea de conseguir a un personaje que narrara la historia de Venezuela de hoy en día desde un punto de vista trabajador, ¿no? Creo que conseguimos muchos personajes, ¿no? Nosotros queríamos a alguien en particular que estuviera atado a una familia, a una ideología que comenzó con el chavismo, porque como se sabe, Venezuela pasó por un momento sociopolítico donde la izquierda estaba como dominando mucho la ideología con Chávez, y Chávez era querido, o sea, eso no es secreto para nadie. Pero con el tiempo ese apoyo fue disminuyendo por, ¿sabes?, la inversión de los recursos, etcétera, que tocamos en el documental. Y creo que el descontento social que había, especialmente la clase baja, era muy alto. Entonces, nosotros queríamos a alguien que era trabajador con la idea de emigrar, que viniera de una familia chavista, por decir algo. Entonces, creo que con esa lista conseguimos a Randall y a varias personas más, pero Randall creo que se prestó simplemente a explorar eso porque, no sé, como que en esa época no es que no tenía nada que hacer, sino que para él era como, o sea, él se dio la tarea como que de hacerse amigo de nuestro crew y ahí fluyó como la conexión y fue muy natural en realidad, ¿sabes? Nunca hubo como una discusión entre nosotros sobre opinión política. Él simplemente lo que quería era conseguir dinero y ya, ¿sabes? Hacer que pudiera tener un plato en la mesa de su hija, y eso en el camino no fue ocurriendo. Entonces, desgraciadamente, o gracias a Dios para nuestro documental, él terminó emigrando. Entonces fue como una evolución de un personaje que, ¿sabes? Son 5 millones de historias de los venezolanos. Entonces, como la respuesta creo que es un poco, ¿sabes?, confusa, porque fue fácil conseguirlo, pero a la vez fue difícil porque tenía muchas características, ¿no? Pero lo que quiero decir con eso es que todos emigraron, toda mi generación casi está fuera de Venezuela. Entonces, él es un ejemplo de muchos, ¿sabes? De muchos, muchos, muchos. Lo bueno es que pudimos capturar ese momento de migración que creo que fue importante para nuestra historia, sí.
Yeah. I mean, I think for us it was always something that we wanted to do was to include the voice of Chavismo to some degree, and represent that within the film. And we knew we had to do that from the beginning because it's almost impossible to understand what's going on in Venezuela without understanding Chavismo and the mindset that goes along with that. You know, it's very much a cult of personality at the same time that it has this sort of class consciousness within it. And so, but I think the struggle for us in giving it a voice was trying to find people from within Chavismo that could speak to it the way it kind of was under Chavez, in the sense that Chavismo as something that helped improve the station of many working and lower class peoples, improved literacy and that legacy, and try to focus as much on that voice. But now, and was something that we found when we spoke a lot to people who were very maduristas in the current narrative of our film, a lot of the conversation went around the, you know, the plot by America subverting and blowing and bombing things up, and a lot of these sort of conspiracy theories, which, don't get us wrong, we did show, you know, I think our character Edgar took a showed us a little bit what that looks like. But for us, that wasn't the voice of Chavez or the voice of Chavismo or the voice of the oficialista that we wanted to capture the most, because I think for a lot of Western audiences, we just kind of disregard that as crazy talk. What we wanted to show is the most believable, the most reasonable aspect of Chavismo, which was coming from Randall's father, who had personal experiences within it and benefited because, for example, in the movie, his wife had this terrible disease that Chavez and his social programs paid for. And so we really wanted to give that as much a voice as possible. But it was just kind of difficult to find at the point that we were making the documentary, and to find it with characters that that would let us like stay with them. I think that so that was the sort of struggle that we kind of came upon in doing it. And so, I also think that when you look at what's going on with Venezuela, you find that a lot of the problems end up like that they're dealing with now isn't always necessarily as a result of just what the oficialista people are saying. It has a lot to do with the opposition movement and the struggles that they're facing in an economy that's absolutely destroyed. You know what I mean? So I think we tried to also balance the political conversation with, again, the humanitarian issue.
There's also one more point I wanted to add to what Max said, which I think, obviously.
Pero dímelo en español.
¿Verdad?
No puedes decir en
Disculpa.
español.
El switch. Sí, todo lo que Max dijo, creo que nosotros tenemos 4 años trabajando en este proyecto. Obviamente pensamos muy similar, pero hay algo que en la parte de la producción, que asumí yo más ese rol al principio, había un problema de seguridad. Nosotros, al indagar con personajes del chavismo, básicamente abríamos la puerta para que ellos contactaran a gente de seguridad y dijeran como que, mira, estas personas están haciendo un documental que no sabemos de qué es, pero ya al preguntar, ¿qué te parece Maduro? Ya es como que estás indagando en algo que el gobierno no quiere. Y eso en Venezuela es como una bandera roja. Y la meta de nosotros era hacer un documental sin ser como, básicamente, como mostrados en el sistema, ¿no? Y hubo varios problemas que tuvimos. En realidad no nos gusta hablar mucho de esto porque no es algo que nos detuvo, pero básicamente ahorita que sale el documental es el primer momento donde el gobierno se da cuenta que hicimos este documental. Entonces, a lo que yo es que preguntarle a estas personas que están... Es un movimiento de inteligencia en contra del periodismo. En Venezuela no hay libertad de expresión. Ese es el problema. Por eso no hay más voces chavistas en realidad. Uf.
I'm going to try and jump in on this, but I have to do this in English. So I definitely don't want to make this a political statement, but inevitably the question is going to bring that out. So I'm going to do my best to draw the line here. But basically, one of the issues with what Trump did with Trump's presidency and his approach to Venezuela, while his stance was against Maduro and resolving the humanitarian crisis and the restoration of democracy, one of the opportunities or the problems was it was a unilateral approach. He didn't leverage the UN, the international community, other countries who also had similar stances in a group effort to fix that. And that was a really big problem and a missed opportunity, because during those years when I think there was a lot of points of really high pressure and the potential for change, a more multilateral approach could have really meant the difference. I think we're at a stage now where a lot of that momentum has been lost, unfortunately, and we're coming off 4 years of everyone kind of deciding to do their own thing with regard to Venezuela. I hope and I believe that Biden, when he takes this approach to Venezuela and when he tries to address the issue, reverts back to a multilateral approach, which I believe he has indicated that he intends to do, just more broadly with foreign policy in general. And I don't think Venezuela is any exception to that. However, whereas before, I think the priority was let's restore Venezuela to a democracy. Let's have that be our priority, along with the humanitarian crisis. But it was very much like the vote, free and fair elections. I think, unfortunately, the time for that has passed in the sense of that being the number one short-term policy objective. And I think that Biden, hopefully, I think, will use the multilateral pressure to alleviate the humanitarian crisis. I mean, we're projected right now to have, at the end of 2021, like, I think it's the total number is going to be 7 million immigrants, Venezuelan people are going to be have left the country projected. You know, that's a quarter of the country, you know. So I think we're really at the stage where, yes, you know, democracy is very important, but I mean, people are dying left and right, children. And so I think that needs to be the new policy objective that hopefully Biden will approach multilaterally moving forward. And I think he will. And I think he's indicated that that's his intention. But again, it's one issue among a world suffering under a pandemic. So I think we also have to take that under consideration.
Nelson, tienes 3 minutos. Sorry.
No,
Oh, yeah, I'm
está
sorry.
bien.
I spoke forever.
No. Estos son uno de los puntos. Max viene, como explicó antes, de estudiar ciencias políticas, entonces este es uno de sus puntos fuertes. Si me preguntas de cine, yo te respondo lo que quiera. Pero sí creo que como venezolano, creo que se jugó un poco también con el voto venezolano aquí en Estados Unidos y eso fue quizás uno de los factores que influyó bastante en esa política que estaba explicando Max, pero yo sí creo que ya el problema está entrando como a un ciclo nuevo, donde ya, no sé, el sector de oposición estuvo muy dividido, pero ahora se está fragmentando en cosas como más específicas de lo que están pidiendo. Sí, creo que estamos entrando en una parte bastante confusa de los siguientes pasos que puede tomar como las organizaciones internacionales. Espero que sea primero y principal ayuda humanitaria para poder salir de la pandemia, porque es algo importante, porque los últimos recursos llegan a los países con menos dinero como Venezuela, especialmente un país que ha destruido el sistema de salud de Venezuela. Entonces, espero que esos sean los primeros pasos, solucionarlo de la pandemia, después la ayuda humanitaria, y después podemos entrar ahí mismo en elecciones libres, esperemos.